of technology integration and design stage itself. Challenges in the management of information. There's a whole lot of information there. Are there any challenges in managing this kind of plethora of information which is provided? What are the challenges in the operation with technology? Yes. Who are pulling off, who are getting their pound of flesh out of this one ship? There is split incentives for everybody. How do we get this community to be regulated? There is only IAMU. There is IAMU comes out with the regulation, but the point is that the panacea? Is that the panacea? IAMU, yes, comes out with the regulation, but then it gets regulated through various flags. I am a ship owner based out of anywhere, but I can choose my regulator. Do I need Belize? Do I need Honduras? Do I need Cambodia? And if anybody wants to attract a ship to his flag, he will definitely water down all his regulations. Not a panacea at all. In this, shipping is a safety critical industry. It's a safety critical industry. And when technology is shown to be delivering on the issues of safety and environment, it gets mandated. The dividing line between a social regulation on safety awareness and the economic regulations of technology, this gets blurred, particularly when technology is passed off as enhancing safety. And the theory of technology regulations easily point out that these are mandated by interests who have got this interest in driving technology for their own parochial advantages. The economic logic of low-cost operation underpins every technology change decision. Let us not fool ourselves. And the cost-benefit analysis remains absolutely myopic to the short-term financial results and returns on investment. I have invested so much in technology. I have replaced manpower with technology. I will reduce my crew. That's a wonderful trade-off. That's a wonderful trade-off. Yeah. Why regulations need to drive the industry is because the very nature of this global industry is fragmented. It is fraught with issues of split incentives, various actors collaborating in a common venture. It starts off with the dam owner, who is today an asset player. And then you have a third-party manager, you have a crewing agency. So everywhere there is economic logic for themselves. So being an extreme case of globalized industry, the ship and the seafarer, who is in the center of this very complex constellation of multiple interests, the contractual employment of seafarer, his non-existent relationship with the owner, he does not know who his real owner is. Mixed nationality crewing, dysfunctional communication with the managers, they actually find no support for this seafarer. What comes out very glaringly is that seafarer who manages technology for optimum performance of the sole productive unit, the ship, he is managing as seafarer, we all know that when we are on the ship, we are governed by one maxim: get this thing done. This has to be done, period. If there are problems, manage yourselves around the bus. Just get it done. So he is managing this, and you have an accident, and it's very easy to say that anything that happened before accident, everything was perfectly fine. Everything is perfectly fine. But the seafarer who is trying to make this everything perfectly fine is going through a lot of fatigue. But that becomes the baseline on which the new regulations and new practices are developed. So this seafarer on whose performance the profiteering of the mind of actors in the industry hinge, he finds himself at the bottom of the priority. There is no user input in designing the technology and regulations. In fact, that is the best place. When you are designing the regulation, that is the best place to have the user input. Where is the user input? Where is the seafarer? Nowhere. There is no concept of human factors engineering. Yes, as we talking about human element, yes. Talking about it for a long time. The cost in excessive fatigue and workload are borne by the seafarer who makes the system work on a daily basis. And their feedback on poor design is judged as nothing more than self-serving. So if I can just summarize the results, the technology was intended only to ease the seafarer's operations and burdens. ends up in controlling him? Yes, controlling him. You have the shore manager who is now almost on everyday work with the seafarer. The seafarer today can't even do any work unless he gets something from the shore side. It's controlling him, even leaving him under-resourced with very fewer crews and causing fatigue. This was actually not an unintended outcome, but this is a result of weak regulatory practices. They are actually weak. Short-term capital outlook, weakened labor practices in the industry. They are all caused by the wider social and economic developments which are affecting not just this industry, ladies and gentlemen, but businesses globally. It tends to be accentuated in this industry. It is because of the structure, the way of this industry structure. The maritime business is no exception to the pervasive forces of globalization. What I think is the contribution to knowledge is these challenges and potential of technology integration into management practices. It ultimately transforms into human performance. And the human performance, human system integration, will never ever be effective. It will never be effective unless it is seen by all the stakeholders as an integral part of the complete human engineering systems. Right from the conceptual stage. We are talking about e-learning, e-navigation today. We are talking about this. Right from the concept stage to the design, to the operation, to the implementation. At every time there must be a specific focus on the user. And this study has delved comprehensively into the gap that exists in the application of technology. This study, I think, just contributes to a better and holistic understanding of the impacts of technology integration and its productivity, thus providing a better picture for the state of the shipping industry. As a further work to this research, yes, every research has got its own limitations in time and funds and whatever, but I think what is important, as the theme of this conference is highlighted, let us not fool ourselves. What can technology do for economic efficiency? That's the key word, economic efficiency. We are not fooling ourselves. So if that be so, in today's world of competing financial priorities, the value proposition of improved technology and integration and positioning the potential core values that can be delivered not only to the employees, but to the customers, but to the other stakeholders within and outside the maritime transport system, I think this needs to be further studied and presented, so for a better uptake that everybody realizes. At the end of the day, it is the dollars, pounds, rupees, paisa, lead that counts. Let us talk that language.
Thank you. For the last 10 years, I have been working at the Southern University for Applied Sciences, mostly with master mariners. And at that time, the most time I used with the mariners who have already been at sea more than 3 years. So we have a master program for those captains who already have at least 3 years of sea experience. And I'm especially lucky to do this because half of those studies which the already experienced master mariners are doing is research. And research which is connected to something that they have already been doing and what they are doing at their ships. And then from us they get the theoretical background and theoretical help and probably some practical advices also. So my theme today is heavily linked to two of such researches made by captains who have been studying at us, and we are connecting that studies to our research projects. So this is what I get every second year. 50 qualified persons who have sea experience who want to study more and to become part of a land organization, directors in shipping business or experts in shipping business. So I can consider myself as a lucky man. Not everybody has such possibility. What we are planning to do in the future is to start this program in English. It's already run half in English, but we still don't have permission from the ministry to do that. Okay, that was the advertising period of my speech. I'm going to start from a topic which I hope somebody of you, at least someone of you, finds interesting. It tries to link safety of ships to something that the ship owner is always interested in. Getting his money if something happens to the ship after the casualty. So I've been doing myself research for University of Oslo on marine insurance for 5 years before this period in Satamunda Polytechnic. And now we are in a situation where marine insurance business is in biggest change in 200 years. So I start to give a little bit background on this. So the project starting point is to enhance the safety of ships and seaworthiness through risk management and marine insurance connected to new possibilities developed by research results which have been achieved by solutions developed for rich resource management and crew resource management. So some of the studies made by the researchers who are taking the level studies at our university. So we combine our efforts. The background for the new possibilities in combining these issues is that there is two main legal systems on marine insurance in the world. The other one is the Nordic marine insurance, based on the old Norwegian marine insurance plan, which was made Scandinavian since the beginning of 2013. And every one of you knows that the English marine insurance has been dominating in for a decade almost. Nordic countries are getting more and more marine insurance because they have very good conditions which can be connected to safety of the vessel. And that's what we are trying to enhance in our project. So we are trying to create safety practices which in turn increase safety of the vessels and which encourage the ship owners to take care that these safety practices are actually followed. And of course it's about money. Ship owners are interested in money. And so you have to get something back if you invest something. And you have to see that you get it back fast, not only after 10 years. So the idea is to research if it's possible to create cost efficiency. You decreased insurance premiums already when risk management on a ship or a whole fleet is taken care of by using some modern safety practices, which are made possible through effective use of modern technology and use of research models adjusted to practices on vessels. I can't go through all this, and there's still a lot of things to be made, but if you read the paper, you will get some picture of the models we have already been connecting to the marine insurance.
Quentin Cox from Southampton University. He's MIT, teaching in Maritime University, electrical officer.
International regulations regarding the training of this officer. All right.
I thought it was a good question to ask, that's all. And of course, it's not just the ownership and the management, it's the people who actually sail on the things. Over the past 20 years or so, that has changed massively as well. So, as I said, it's quite a change that the new regulations, the amendments, should be thinking about personal qualities and not simply the people and their qualifications. So let's look into that in a little bit more detail. as with many regulations, not all of these issues are entirely explicit, and I don't think that's a criticism. It's perfectly valid and acceptable, I think, to have some implication in these regulations. So I'm not suggesting that if you look through the pages of the SPCW, you'll find every one of these particular qualities mentioned, but as I say, I think there's an implication that they all fit together. Some of them are, most certainly, but what has come out of these changes, and again this kind of relates back to the last paper, was that slightly different courses have been created. May not, as I say, be explicit in terms of the mandatory requirements, but separate courses, and certainly speaking from our own point of view in UK, the flag state of the United Kingdom, which is the MCA, the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, has interpreted these requirements in isolation, if you like, and they call these the training HELM, Human Element Leadership and Management. It might otherwise be called Crew Resource Management Training. But the courses that we run, currently they're either 3-day at operational level or 5-day at management level. These are the sort of topics that are focused upon. It's not essential that these courses are run separately. We've actually had a bit of a dialogue with the regulatory authorities in the United Kingdom. And just again picking up on the previous speaker, we have the flag state organisation, the MCA, and we also have an organisation called the MNTB, which is the Merchant Navy Training Board, and they give guidance. It's not an essential part of the process, but they give guidance about courses, particularly new courses, and the dialogue that the colleges and academies in the UK have been having has been related to the idea that should these courses be taught separately, or should they be integrated into the long courses for cadets and senior officers. We're still having that discussion, but one thing that has come out of it, that there's been no requirement to stop the short courses anyway, whatever the decision is. And we originally did have standalone courses for the long courses, as I say, the junior and the senior staff. We still find that there's enough of a market to run these courses for students outside the long course structure of the college, so there's certainly a market there. So let's look into some of these issues a little bit more. One of the problems with teaching non-technical skills is that we're talking about sort of individual qualities and characteristics. It's not so easy to teach that. And most certainly, and even more of a problem, is trying to assess those qualities. So this is something of a challenge that the composers of these courses have had to meet. As we expand in the paper, these are the qualities that have been identified as being important in terms of, shall we say, a harmonious working environment on a ship. And like a lot of amendments to legislation, they've been extracted from investigations into particular incidents. Now, if I mention the name of the ship Val Mariner, that may mean something to some of you. And this is quite a significant case, because as well as the technicalities that went wrong, that was thought to be related to a tank washing and a gas freeing operation, what was abundantly clear from the investigation into that incident was just these non-technical factors that we've been talking about. And this is just an extract from the investigation. And they're very explicitly talking about workforce interaction and cooperation. And I think what's very important about this approach to an incident analysis was that it's not, as I say, not just focusing on the technicalities of what went wrong, but the sort of working environment that was present prior to the incident. And again, without wishing to sound too sweeping about this, it's often the case that an environment of distrust and suspicion and discontent in the workforce may lead to an incident. Whereas, again, it sounds rather naive, but a happier and more contented workforce are less likely to produce incidents and accidents of this nature. And I think there is a very strong association between this incident and incidents like it, and the certain features and factors that led to the incident, and the changes in legislation. As I said, this is what I'm trying to pick up on. Now, another point from the paper and my interpretation of these sequence of events, and again, it's a fairly obvious one, but I do often wonder this when I'm reading literature about MET, that there's not always there doesn't seem to be a sort of broad spectrum of these discussions in relation to other industries. And again, I think if you trace back the origins of the move to bring non-technical training into the maritime industry, we can look at other industries and see what they've been doing. And again, there's a very strong association between the type of training that STCW talks about, since the Manila Amendments anyway, and the aviation industry. But in fact, again, I'm sure a lot of you are very well aware of this, if we look at another set of industries, what you might loosely call high-risk industries, we can see a similar sequence of events where this sort of training has been embraced. And this is something that I think is extremely important as I get towards, you'll be relieved to get towards the end of the presentation. As I said earlier on, in the UK we refer to this as HELM, and it's quite timely. Another expert, well, I don't call myself an expert on this by any stretch of the imagination, but a colleague of mine from the UK is most definitely an expert on HELM training, and I think he'll be talking to you a bit later on about the topic. But the Swedish Cover Academy, another prestigious organisation in the industry, listed over 80 such training courses in 35 different countries. So it's a fairly substantial indication that, mandatory or not, the industry is embracing this sort of training. And one particular element, and again, it's not always an easy topic to discuss, but other academics have cited one of those topics, cultural awareness, as being quite significant, and this is actually from the aviation industry, and this gets back to something I was suggesting earlier on, that they were saying that national culture will have the strongest influence towards attitude and behaviour. Obviously very important factors in terms of safety and awareness. And of course, national culture will be enshrined in each of us from the very beginning of our lives. It's not something that we can sort of instantly change within a few days of a training course. So this is the scale of the sort of challenges we face when we're trying to teach our staff, our shipping staff, the sort of awareness that they should be embracing. And as I said earlier on, maybe this slight change in approach marks a significant change from west to east in terms of the way that shipping is both managed and manned. So my parting message is that, as I say, mandated or not, these are essential factors that MET broadly should embrace, and by looking across to other industries and the way they've dealt with the issue and the training, I think we can learn a great deal from.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cox. Do you have any questions? Yes, please.
Hey, Quentin, just one question. You said look to other industries. Have you in your research and your talks with the maritime industry specifically, what have they expressed as a desire regarding this type of training beyond crew resource management, beyond bridge management?
The greatest sentiment that I've detected is that, that I've seen stated in other industries, is that the evaluation of the training should be more closely monitored and evaluated. It's clear that a lot of training takes place, but certainly in industries such as medicine and aviation, quite a number of observers have suggested that, yeah, the training looks good, but what is the real value of it? How much have we managed to change people's attitudes and behaviours?
Very much.
Good day. Please allow me to present you the paper that I have conducted together with my tutor, Mr. Vlado Vesbele from Vapsvarov Naval Academy from Varna, because he's my tutor in my PhD program that I'm performing in Varna Academy. So together we thought about how to refloat the ship, but because I have already made a research regarding this in my PhD program here in Romania, where I have studied to refloat the ship by using only her own means present aboard, meaning the engine and the angles of the rudder, port side and starboard side, and the engine full astern, maybe if the ship can do that, depending on the grounding event. Now we are trying to find a way to conduct our research about refloating the ship using other means of help, like tugs, lifting cranes, and so on. So, it is well known that during the time grounding has been representing an important topic in the maritime industry. The problem is that the maritime industry thinks to do something about this only after an event has occurred. So, we have a major pollution, let's think what we can do to prevent this further on. Maybe, I don't know, lives are lost at sea, and after that only the maritime industry thinks what to do next in order to prevent in the future this thing. So this is the main problem, in my opinion, and my tutor, that it's happening with the grounding events. The problem is that the shipbuilders, first of all, should think about the safety measurements that should be applied to the ships. Afterwards, the ship owners should think about more safety measurements brought to the construction of a ship, but all of these cost money. So it's a lot of money to be spent, and that's why if everything goes okay for the moment, everybody stays like this. After something happens, everybody thinks that maybe something should happen. The problem is that after a grounding event appears, you, as a member of the crew, or maybe as the master of the ship, or maybe as a ship owner, you have to work together with everybody around the ship, or has to deal with the ship, to find the best method to refloat the ship. Because even if you try to refloat it, I don't know, maybe you think that using the engine astern is the best method to refloat the ship. But maybe the ship's hull won't resist when you put the engine full astern. So, if you do that, you might get a pollution in the area that casualty. So, what we are trying to find now is to find a formula. It's too much to say a formula. We are applying the calculus on one type of grounding to see what we have to do next for that specific event. Cleaning after a major pollution, it costs a lot of money. But the problem is that it doesn't it's not the fact that we have to spend a lot of money to clean the seas. The problem is that we don't have the certainty that we are going to clean it properly, and that nothing is going to happen in the future, killing the environment and so on. So, in order to apply the best method of refloating, first of all, we have to fully understand the grounding event. We have to see the sites. We have to calculate everything that happens around that ship. We have to see the tide. We have to see the current, the wind. The members of the crew present on board, do they have the skills necessary to do the refloating operation, or we have to bring a team from outside to take the best decision. The cheapest and the fastest way to refloat the ship is the one done by the crew members. If they can refloat it without calling anybody else and without spending any money, then it's the best refloating operation. But if they cannot do this, then we have to find another method. When talking about refloating, we have to take into consideration all the forces and conditions that appear around the casualty, around the stranded grounding vessel. So we have to take into consideration that the ship doesn't react the same as in normal service. The wind is not going to affect the grounded ship as it does when she is floating. Just general issues about grounding. A ship is grounded when part of its weight is supported by the ground. So we have to, we call this the ground reaction. The ground reaction, or tons of ground, part of the ship that are supported by the bottom of the sea. Ground reaction, unfortunately, is unpredictable and uneven. So we always, in order to free the ship, we have to bring the ground reaction to zero, so that the ship is going to be in service again. The four major effects of the ground reaction are the loss of buoyancy, because afterwards the hydrostatic characteristics are altered and the hull girdle is getting loaded too much. The upward force of ground reaction at the keel causes a virtual rise in the center of gravity. Extremely high local loading with damage or penetration of the hull can occur in the worst case scenario, and we have a hole in the ship's hull. And ground reaction holds the ship stationary. That means that all the forces of the environment are acting upon that ship, and she cannot do anything because she's stuck in that position. Besides ground reaction, we have to take into consideration the size of the ship that is grounded, and we have to take into consideration the ship's position relative to the shore. And we have to pay special attention to magnitude and distribution of the ground reaction. As I have said, it's uneven and unpredictable. The changes in list and trim caused by the stranding, because to sudden moves of the ship when she's grounded, it can cause breaks in the hull, in the ship's hull. The area of the ship in contact with the bottom, there are more cases of a grounded ship. A ship can be grounded in only one point. Then we can consider the ship grounded in 2 points. That means that she's grounded only with one part of her length. But we can also consider a ship grounded with her total length. And the other one is the ship grounded with a hole in the ship's hull. That means flooding of the ship and changing she's stability.
lucrări sunt mult mai bune decât cei care sunt selecționați pentru prezentarea lor. Noi am avut o echipă tehnică care s-a ocupat de selecția lucrărilor. O parte dintre ele au fost selectate pentru prezentare în plen și iată, așa cum am observat, nivelul științific, nivelul calitativ al lucrărilor este deosebit de bun. Această manifestare care este conferința anuală a acestei asociații este cel mai important eveniment din viața unei universități maritime din întreaga lume. Toată lumea se pregătește pentru că este un moment în care între noi, cei care ne ocupăm de un domeniu de nișe, acela al transportului maritim, fluvial și al exploatării portuare, între noi ne putem comunica puncte de vedere, opinii, impresii despre ce ar trebui făcut în continuare pentru educație sau ceea ce s-a făcut cu rezultate mai puțin bune.
officer from the same national in cooperation our style regarding of cultural treatment applying to other peoples. There are many different references levels which can help to express the cultural differences perception as parochial. This level, the people like to do the things only in that way, in their way. They don't want to not only to listen to other people's opinion, and this level, the impact of the cultural differences is ignored. To the second level, ethnocentric, the people listen to the other one, but they are thinking that their opinion is most good, is the better, and they choose their opinion, their point of view. At this level, the cultural differences are seen as a source of problem, and the people start to ignore each other. The third level, synergistic, is the level when the people present their opinion to the both side, and they choose together the good one, the good point of view, the better one for that situation, for that moment. At this level, people realize that cultural differences can lead to problems. Also, the benefits are, and they are interested to use the cultural diversity for creation of new and alternative solutions. And to the last level, the cultural participation is that one when the people are speaking, are choosing together, and they try to improve the way how they see the solution for problems. And of course, this allows people talking to each other, creates new understanding, new rules to help in solving the particular situation. Increasing the cultural knowledge means to observe the positive and the negative aspects possible to appear inside of cultural differences. The cultural diversity can be a source of problem, essentially in the field where it's necessary to collaborate and to work together. When people achieve the necessary cultural knowledge, they realize that we are not the same. Because of this, everybody can see the solution for problems in different ways. Similarities and differences are both important. Of course, we don't need to take care only about the difference of the culture. We must take care to the similarities and to put it together and to use the best one solution. the same department, to put people from the same nationality, to have the same culture, to not have this problem again after.
Okay.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
My name is Vladimir Zakharchenko. I am from Odessa National Maritime Academy, and I would like to present you the paper that has titled Enhancing Ship Navigation Safety by Improving Steering Wheel System Reliability. Firstly, some general information. The paper was submitted under the topic New Technology for Enhancing of Maritime Transport Safety and Security. Short information about authors now at the screen. And I'd like to say that is a very specific paper in accordance to the topic. And this paper represents some outcomes of the scientific research that now is provided under the supervision of our electrical engineering department. The general idea of the research is steering gear as a tool and steering gear as a component of ship navigation safety. So the research is focused on steering gear and keeping steering gear in operative condition. Now, as the screen, you can see service requirement concerning steering gear, and we see that in the case of fire failure, it is necessary that defect can be isolated, so the steering gear capability can be maintained for speedy reguiding. But nowadays, the fault finding and isolation process is usually manual and takes a lot of time. In accordance to this issue, the specific idea of the research is to delegate the function of fault detection and fault isolation to the steering gear control systems. Now you can see at the screen the basic model of hydraulic steering gear. You see the block diagram and basic equation that were used during research. This diagram and equation are published in many scientific publications. As I told, the idea was to delegate the function of detecting and fault isolation functions to the control system. In our vision, the control system in this case must realize the fault-tolerant control algorithms, FTC algorithms. According to FTC principles, in the case of fault, control system must to compensate fault influence or must reconfigure the system with a view of fault isolation. There are two typical faults was considered in this paper. First one is backlash in rudder position feedback circuit, and another second fault is rudder stuck due to hydraulic lock when two pumps in operation. First considered fault is backlash in rudder position feedback circuit. This fault can lead to inaccurate force control, and our proposal was to add to the steering gear control system compensation unit. The corresponding block diagram now is presented as a screen. The top part of the block diagram, we see the basic model of the basic steering system, but with backlash unit in the feedback circuit. Backlash is fault. And also we see the reference model, virtual model that exists in the memory of the control system, and we see the compensator. three pictures that illustrate radar movement in accordance to common signal and illustrates the efficiency of proposed fault compensation. Here is common signal illustrated by black line, and blue line at the screen illustrates normal operation of steering gear, and here is red line. It illustrates the operation with backlash. We see that in the case of backlash, we have a radar position error about 3 degrees. And green line illustrates now operation with backlash and with compensator. As you can see, the compensation that was proposed in this paper can reduce the radar error from 3 to approximately 0.5 degrees. And appropriate corresponding to this proposal control system algorithm was developed, and now it is presented as the right side of the screen. The second fault that was considered is radar stuck due to hydraulic load. This fault can lead to loss of shipping controllability, and possible solution of this problem, according to good marine practice, can be alternate switching on all steering gear pumps till the radar will start move to expected position. But nowadays, these operations usually are provided manually, and we propose to add to steering gear control system special reconfiguration unit, and corresponding block diagram now also as a screen. The reconfiguration unit is at the top part of the diagram. This reconfiguration unit is looking for common signal and radar position feedback signal, and can detect the radar stuck condition. If configuration unit will detect the radar stuck condition, it will generate the on-off signal to both pumps for steering gear number 1 and steering gear number 2 till the radar will start move and will unblock it.
The Kaliningrad region, how to enhancing the effectiveness of the Kaliningrad State Fishing Port.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So the content of presentation, and you see on the background is a photo of our city, Kaliningrad. It's a very historical city, the former Königsberg, and now I would like to say for those who do not know where it's situated to give you some information where you see our region is a exclave, or correctly half exclave of Russian Federation on the south of Baltic Sea. We have no direct borders with our motherland, with Russian Federation, and we have on the north and the east border with Lithuania, on the south border with Poland. And so this is our geographical political position lead to some problem of activity, and the number of activity of our maritime complex and port. As you see, in Russia there is developed some logistic centers along the transport corridors, and north-south and west-east, and on this way from west to east, or from east to west, it's better say, it's the port of Kaliningrad is situated on the Baltic Sea.
As we all know, sometimes the world has kind of a skewed view. They kind of have a romantic idea of what piracy actually is. We hear stories about, you know, Blackbeard and Henry Morgan, of course Henry Morgan. We have Captain Kidd, we have Jean Lafitte. Living in Galveston, Texas, Jean Lafitte is actually kind of a local hero. This isn't always true. Unfortunately, Johnny Depp has not done any service to the maritime industry in the portrayal of pirates. Piracy it's not as prevalent right now off of the coast of Somalia as it has been in recent years. The number of attacks have decreased, but the success rate of these attacks has increased. What they're actually, you know, the attacks that they attempt are a lot more successful now than they were 3 to 5 years ago. The face of piracy has changed. You see individuals that are striving to make some sort of a living. Overfishing has been a major cause of some of the piracy off of the coast of Somalia. Right now, Nigeria is kind of a hot spot for piracy also. It's kind of flaming up there, and it's not just commercial vessels that are at risk for piracy. There are personal craft also. A few years ago, there were 2 couples that were murdered on board their yacht. They were traveling the world distributing Bibles, not selling anything. They didn't have, you know, what some would consider precious cargo on board. They were still hijacked, ransom was not paid, and they were killed. This is the face of piracy in 2013, unfortunately, around the world. So there are many vessels that are at risk of a pirate attack, and I'm going to speak about the efficacy of the piracy protection that's actually on board now and what we can possibly do to increase that protection, not only to keep the seafarers that we have in the industry now, but to attract more seafarers as this generation is retiring. In 2011, there were 439 pirate attacks worldwide. 54% were actually off of the coast of Somalia. There were 45 merchant vessels hijacked. 28 of those were off of Somalia. In 2012, a strong number was also off the coast of Somalia, along with quite a few hostages that were taken from different countries. They don't target one nationality for hostages. They kind of blanket the entire globe for that. They're not afraid to distribute their love to every country whenever it comes to taking money. In 2013, we can see that the attacks off of the coast of Somalia have decreased, but Nigeria has kind of become a new hotbed. That's the new hotspot. They're not just going for ransoms, they're actually stealing cargo also, which has become quite profitable for the hijackings. The types of vessels that are attacked, there's not just a handful that are pinpointed. It's not just container vessels, it's not just ro-ros, it's a little bit of everything. There are fishing vessels, there's chemical tankers, that's kind of the new big vessel to be hijacked because of their cargo that they carry on board. It's very, it's worth quite a bit world round. Tankers are also one of them, fishing vessels, and that's all based on the ransom amounts that could be paid by their companies. In 2011, it shifted very little bit. Still chemical tankers and bulk carriers are the majority of the hijacked vessels. This is world round, not just in any particular area. Piracy has been expanding quite a bit. It's not just, as I said earlier, it's not just in Somalia and it's not just in the Straits of Malacca anymore. It's going towards the southern tip of Africa and around to the western coast also. It's kind of difficult to see here. You can kind of make out the darker shading the further out we get. Somali pirates used to only stay within a certain range of shore. They didn't have the capabilities to travel large distances into the water to hijack these larger vessels. Now they are using vessels that they've already taken control of, using those larger vessels as kind of motherships and spreading out from there, setting that ship up as a home base of operations instead of going shoreside. And they're able to actually get almost to the coast of India and attack vessels that far out also. There are quite a few preventive measures and military actions currently being used to thwart piracy. The use of citadels on board is obviously one way to do this. However, not all vessels on board have not all vessels have citadels on board, rather. They're kind of a newer instance, I guess you could say. They're new design. Some of the new builds actually have citadels built in, but a lot of the older vessels don't. The crew was instructed to go to the engine room should you be boarded. Pirates can still get into the engine room, and there's no real safe place for the crew to go. Employment of privately contracted armed security personnel. This is a great thing to have, but we're not able to go worldwide with this. There are lots of ports that don't allow weapons in their waters, into their country. You can't have a crew that is armed because they have to go into these different ports. They don't know, in some cases they don't know where they're going. They're sitting out with cargo, with fuel. It could be sold anywhere in the world. They're kind of up to the mercy of the industry as to where they're going to be heading. And security personnel don't always solve the problem. Just because you have them on board does not mean that you're not going to get boarded. Complacency is not an option when it comes to preventative measures. You can't get comfortable. Piracy is always going to be an issue that we have to deal with. I know there's a big fuss about the new movie that's out, Captain Phillips, about the Maersk Alabama. And the captain was actually interviewed on a morning show in the U.S. on the Today Show, and the host asked specifically, what are your feelings about this? We've been told that you knowingly went close to shore within the range of the pirates. Captain Phillips' answer to that was, it's a threat everywhere you go. No matter where you go in the world, you have the chance of being boarded, you have the chance of being hijacked, kidnapped, you can be held for ransom for years and years on end. No matter where you go, if they want you bad enough, they're going to find a way to get to you. Complacency is not an option. Personally, I feel like Captain Phillips may have been a little bit lax in that area, getting a little too close to shore. But most of the time, the captains are told, you need to keep a strict watch on this and make sure you have people looking out 24 hours a day, especially whenever you're in the hotbed in the highly active pirate waters. Maintaining strict 24-hour visual and radar anti-piracy watch using all available means. Not just one person at the bow or one person in the wheelhouse sitting around looking all night. You need to have more than one person looking all around the vessel. They can come from anywhere, and these pirate skiffs can come up pretty quickly. And be aware of the small boats that appear to be converging on your vessel. You need to be aware of your surroundings. Don't take anything for granted. If you think it's a fishing vessel, it could be a fishing vessel, but it could also be a smelly pirate with an RPG pointed straight at you, ready to board your vessel and do whatever it takes to get their millions of dollars in ransom for you. The employee's safety and well-being both during and after a pirate attack or hostage situation is another issue that's very important, but sometimes is left out of the general media. We hear about the attacks, we hear about the attempted hijackings. What we don't hear about is what happens to those personnel after the event. Once they're released from their hostage situation, what happens to them then? Are they going to stay in the industry, or did that spook them enough where they don't want to deal with it anymore and they want to look for something shoreside? In 2011, there were quite a few seafarers that were attacked. 968 actually came in close contact with the pirates. Of those, almost half were rescued from citadels by naval forces. In 2011, there were a little over 1,200 held captive. There were 6 tourists and aid workers. It's not just the crew of the vessel. It's volunteers that are out there trying to do good for the environment, trying to do good for other countries. They could be delivering food. They could be, delivering any sort of aid possible to these ailing countries. Piracy doesn't discriminate against that. The vessel was still taken over. Current technology in citadels is quite impressive. There is fresh water, there's medical equipment, other supplies, including satellite phones and GPS locators. Like I said, a lot of these are not able to be detected from the other communication equipment that's on board. These are a totally separate system. They can set up the engines to not be operable outside of the citadel in the case of an emergency. And the emergency engine shutoff switch is to keep the vessel from being directed by the pirates, which can be definitely a lifesaver in this event. Emergency exits are sometimes incorporated into the design of a citadel in case the pirates attempt to sink the vessel, which this has actually been used before. If you set it up in an outside area, you can just scoot on out and the pirates will never know that you were even there. You're kind of able to make a quick escape. Some of the risks that are associated with the current technology in citadels. While some have emergency exits, not all of them do. And we could lose an entire crew should the pirates not get what they want and decide to sink the vessel as kind of payback to the company. The location of the citadel on board is not always in the most inconspicuous place. A lot of time these pirates know exactly where they need to go, and they can be accessed from many different areas. There was another case of a vessel being hijacked. Crew went into the citadel. The pirates pumped in smoke. It was not a separate ventilation system. They didn't have an enclosed ventilation system. Pirates pumped in smoke to try to asphyxiate the crew and smoke them out to get what they wanted. They weren't able to successfully do that. Luckily, that crew had breathing apparatus in that citadel, so they were kind of saved that way. But it could still scare someone into running out of that room. In another instance, the roof of the citadel was actually exposed. Pirates took cutting torches, and as we would use a can opener on a can, they cut the top off of the citadel and were able to get to the crew that way. And one of the crew members actually died during that incident.
Focused on refrigeration. Mainly we focus on a topic that specialists are dealing with, specialists involved in most of in marine refrigeration. But also this topic we discuss with our students, which are trained in our university to become marine officers, marine engineers. They have a course of marine refrigeration in the fourth year, in the last year of study. In the beginning, I want to outline some things that maybe are well known. It's pressure on this sector, an international pressure, because of the global warming impact of these technologies, and because of the way in which this technology might destroy the ozone layer. We all know that in the past the traditional refrigerant on board the ships was phenol number 12, which was in a category named chlorofluorocarbons. It contains chlor and had negative impact on the ozone layer. This is why it was banned in 1996. Nowadays we use other kind of refrigerants from other kind of family which is chloro-free. Because it's chloro-free doesn't affect the ozone layer, but still the global warming potential is still high for the refrigerants that we use nowadays. So this is the reason why specialists are oriented towards natural refrigerants, and because they are natural, of course, they don't harm the environment. So we expect to find zero ozone depletion potential and zero global warming potential.
that things will be better from environment point of view, and also hoping that from technological point of view, the plant will run in its natural way. So in this table we analyze kind of physical properties of the three refrigerants. From critical pressure and critical temperature point of view, we see that we have almost same values, so the plant should work in the same regime, more or less. But if we take a look to the global warming potential, we see that working with natural refrigerants, how much we can decrease the negative impact of the refrigerating system working with this kind of mixture. We focused on two types of mixtures. Of course, we take into account to mix botanes or botanes, as we said, but in different rates, as you see. This is the most typical chart of traditional refrigerating system, not on board the ship, and also not only because all the refrigerating industry is based mainly on vapor compression system. We analyze some equations. I will pass quicker on this because these equations, it's not interesting how we calculate the equations. Maybe it's interesting to see the values, and we will find them in a table, which is here. So we have a case of study presented. Condensation temperature is fixed, evaporation temperature is fixed, and also the cooling capacity. On the first column, we have the refrigerant that is now in use. The following two columns are the substitutes or potential alternatives of the traditional one. And we have calculated the main parameters that can describe the functioning of the refrigerating system. Volumetric cooling capacity, the coefficient of performance, which is giving the term of efficiency of the plant, temperature of the vapors at the exit of the compressor, and the specific volume at the compressor inlet. So we will, at the conclusion, we will come back and we will see that from the two alternatives, the better one is that one which is given by the mixture in equal rates, 50% of the two natural refrigerants, because the volumetric cooling capacity is
because they also know that by the end of the day, if they don't get as good a grade out of that watch rotation, they kind of know where that came from. So they're expected to put in some time outside of class to learn some basics. Now, we're not expecting them to be, 20-year veteran engineers, certainly not. But through this dialogue, two things happen. One, by listening to the questions the student poses, and then the answers received and the new questions that the student poses, you can get an idea not only what they know, but most importantly, you start to learn what they don't know. And as instructors, our job is to figure out how to, what I call, fill the potholes, the holes in the street. We want to have a nice smooth path and eventually have all of the knowledge there. Well, if you have a student who has no idea what an actuator even is, well, now I know, and I can tell him, and we can have a dialogue about that. And the end result is both the instructor and the student have a much clearer idea of what they're learning or not learning. So here in the picture, as a matter of fact, is an example. This is Tom Mader. He's one of our. He's now retired, but he's teaching for us again on a part-time basis. He's setting up the plant for a next scenario. Well, one of the other benefits of the talking engine room system is I just run the system depending on whatever is set up in the plant. Because in our system, each of these valve positions is actually registered by the simulator. So if they've forgotten to reset, he's got his hand on a main steam bulkhead stop valve. If you've forgotten to do that, it's not my problem. You should have remembered that. So what happens is when they don't set up the plant the way they're supposed to, they have to deal with the consequences. And that consequence could mean, well, now the generators are offline because they don't have steam. So even little subtle things that you would not normally deal with on just a graphical display, now the students are learning the systems much better as well. Because most of our engineering cadets, of course, have never met any of the marine transportation faculty, except maybe in passing on the gangway on a cruise, and they want to go ashore, and he says no because you have the wrong shoes on. But if you've done something in the plant because of your own negligence, they have to actually go to talk to one of our deck faculty. So if they have a fire, for example, because they didn't do one of these repairs properly, they're sending it ahead. And what we found is going up to talk to somebody they don't even know and they don't want to know, they're much better prepared because they don't want to talk to that guy. This gives you an idea of some of the crew positions, their general responsibilities. But we all know, of course, this list, it's not really set in stone. On any given day, the second assistant engineer, even though he's mostly in charge of the boilers and the steam generation plant, that doesn't mean that person's not going to have to go fix a toilet. Okay, it just happens. This is all work that has to get done on the ship. And so what happens often in a more traditional sense is, only the first assistant is on the computer, only the second is on the boiler. But by using this talking engine room system and actually making them leave and go look at the boiler, we found that they actually get a much better feel for everything going.
So what we have found is people's situational awareness, the first thing we talked about, has greatly improved. So when the chief sends someone to do something, they make that personal connection. They say, oh yeah, I sent him over there. I'm not going to do anything on that piece of equipment. It's essentially tagging it out in your mind, something that usually gets overlapped when you're working a part task trainer or another simulated course where you're just pressing buttons and not actually making orders. On the second hand, like the example I gave, you're finding unconventional ways of fixing things because you're on a ship. There's not always a single procedure to come up with something. So why should we have a bunch of procedures when if you understand the topic, you understand the system, then you yourself can create that procedure, discuss amongst your management team that you've created, and ultimately find a solution that will work. If you only have so many tools in your tool bag, you can only repair that many things. If you can make your own tools, you can repair anything. Another finding that we found was, at first, students thought of it as a punishment for when they would go up there and they'd stand there and then they have to sit. They stand, but what we have is we have a single pane glass where you can see through one way but not the other, and they were actually able to step back from the situation and actually watch what their team was doing. As I think all of us know, if you're involved in something, you're nervous, you're not going to always make the best actions, and you're not always going to think about every element in the plant. Now, when you're sitting back there, you're not coordinated with the watch team, you actually see all the mistakes of, ooh, you probably shouldn't be doing that, or, nah, not really. So, you're actually teaching someone, even though they're not participating at that moment. Another thing finding feedback that we have is people are way more aware of what they're actually doing. If you're going into the industry, like I say, oh, turn on, okay, I'll just press this button. Well, you're not going to have that button in the reality of it, and well, what am I actually going to do? What was I actually doing when I pressed that button? If you are talking to a teacher and he quizzes you and says, well, why are you doing this? I can do it, but why are you actually doing this? Then that thought process gets cycled in your head, and you actually understand what you're doing, and you can run any plan.
Now we should skip from technical skills to non-technical skills, taking into account the ways to implement the STCW Manila amendments for training in leadership and teamwork. We take into account the recommendation of the IAMU considering the new model for leadership and teamwork. Shane, it's okay? Whatever. One, two. You know that team working, it's okay now?
Yeah.
Is no, team working is not identified within the revisions to STCW as a specific competence, but it's referred to in terms of, I quote it, necessary team members or the consideration of team experience. But as a maritime higher education institution, our aim is to provide workplace leaders with the theoretical and practical skills required to lead teams towards a culture of safety. That is why we have these specific training issues, training concepts and training terms that are human factors training, soft skills training, or the non-technical training also. When we want to refer to as human factors training, the human resource management, and then the leadership and teamwork. Keeping knowledge simple will be of utmost importance to achieve the training objectives and to avoid making trainees and possibly even trainers afraid of the new subjects. Qualified personnel are important in every industry, but in the maritime sector, we are to a greater extent dependent on the competence of the persons serving on board. Each competence is connected with a degree of requisite knowledge, understanding, and proficiency, and definitely some competences are easy to access, whereas others call for extensive planning. Thinking of the taxonomy of educational objectives created in the 1950s by the educational psychologist Benjamin Bloom, where he categorizes skills and objectives for students. When we consider the educational objectives within the mariners area, the cognitive area is the most relevant and constitutes skill objectives of knowledge, comprehension, and application. These objectives correlate very closely to those to the STCW code that are knowledge, understanding, and proficiency. Now, let's start with the first skill objective, that is knowledge. When it comes to cognitive levels, knowledge is considered to be the lowest, and in this sense, knowledge only requires that the student can recall previously learned material like facts, basic concepts, and terminology. Taking into account the leadership and teamwork course module, this can be knowledge of the standard representational symbols used by different cultures, and the test of such knowledge can easily be achieved by a written exam. Taking into account now the second skill objective, that is the understanding. The level of understanding or comprehension requires a deeper understanding of facts and ideas, which can be shown by interpretation and description. Once again, taking into account the leadership and teamwork module course, a trainee, for example, might be shown a picture for situational awareness and be asked to describe how the cultural differences operate. Thinking of, for example, group, individual, power, distance, uncertainty, avoidance, feminine, masculine, or short or long-term terms. Testing of such comprehension can also be achieved in written exams, but also require more elaborate answers than just short ones. Proficiency is the highest of the skill objectives in the STCW code. To demonstrate proficiency, you have to apply acquired knowledge. To do this, for example, for the leadership and teamwork course module, a student can be asked to describe the importance of closed-loop communication and how to achieve a good communication climate. The best way to assess application of acquired knowledge would be to demonstrate proficiency through practical examination. Taking into account all these skill objectives, the MAP institutions face new demands and best practices of providing a high standard of maritime education and training. When we are saying this, we are thinking of the fact that any organization, public or private, and certainly also faculties and universities depend on the knowledge, skill, expertise, and motivation of its human resources. Development needs of teachers in these areas should therefore be amongst an organization major and long-term goals. These developmental goals can be achieved by providing teachers with training opportunities to achieve maximum effectiveness, ensuring that employees develop their skills and capabilities to be able to work efficiently and respond rapidly to changes within their organizations, improving also performance of their present duties, and last but not the least, ensuring that the best use is made of the natural abilities and individual skills of all employees for the benefit of the organization and their career. Development and training is a continuous and systematic process. The process of training should necessarily be directed to give every teacher a sense of professionalism, excellence, and motivation. The moment when English is the world's lingua franca, communication skills requirements are to be taken into account. The world now, in the world, most of maritime institutions have been offering courses in English for several years. Their reasoning to do this was, I quoted, the lingua franca of the sea is English and you need to know it. Our students are very active on the international market and demand an international environment. The aim to give is to give students important and to do work in a globalized world. So we are living within a globalized world, so we have to take into account the internationalization of the higher education by delivering courses
captain of the vessel, ex-captain of the vessel, now I'm instructor. It's up to date, it's valid, but I'm not going to say anymore. Here this is the, let's say, dynamic position DP with a basic. There are 4. In the other room you will see we have the DP K-Post 2. It's for advanced cruises.
And you know, we bought it from Uber, it's the main supplier for
What per second is enough to take decision to repair mistake. If you work on software, generally all the rest are the same. But if you need to
but for
special,
DP, it's not the
special
same. Because, you know, with this simulator, we are not addressing the students. We are addressing the graduates, and they have to find the same equipment which they have here on the device. Yes.
Here is the navigational part of the platforms. We are working from here. Also, I give to the students some orders from the other side. And here it's one tanker. I'm sorry we don't have possibility to see because it's finished the screen. The maneuvering on the DP2. We said DP2 because it's dynamic positioning devices. It's totally, in case one is going out, the other one automatically taking the mission of the data. Also there are DP treatment just in case, using the only just in case. Depends what type of works is necessary to do. Example, if you want to fix a pipe somewhere 400 or 500 meters down, you also use the remote control vehicle underwater. You have to see this on the TV vision, let's say 10 centimeters left or right, but working with the satellites, not 1 or 2. It's working with satellites, with sensors on the platform. There are a lot of sensors fixed. Also, as I explained to you, one system is working, another one is standby. I'm looking, I have possibility to see the thrusters, to see.
How many instructors you have?
Not everybody.
Graduated 1 with cars in North.
4.
There's no